Well, I differed big time on that with Mr. Murthy when he said in country is one of the least productive nations. And you just can't give half of your full day of 24 hours to work. I think that's too much of an ask. 72 hours is like too much of a killer, I would say. Look, the other shift that we are seeing is A, of course, people not wanting to get married. Number two, even if you're getting married, we don't want to have a child, right?
My name is Divas Gupta, and in this episode of Workwise with Naukri, we'll be discussing the much debated topic, a 70-hour work week. Infosys co-founder said that the youth of this country should work 70 hours a week for India's development, and this sparked a big discussion. In today's world, where the emphasis is on smart working and tools like ChatGPT are streamlining tasks, reducing the work hours, and encouraging individuals to use their time for upskilling, the question arises, does a 70-hour work week align with the current discourse on the efficiency, work-life balance, and professional advancement? We tried to get answers of all these questions with Rajesh Singh, CEO of Simply Group. Rajneesh is a published author and brings a rich 3-decade experience in HR, notably at Vodafone and Network 18. Rajneesh, welcome to Workwise with Naukri.
Thank you so much.
How was your last week?
Lovely, wonderful as it can be. I just turned 62 days back.
Oh my God, congratulations.
I'm absolutely thrilled because normally people retire by that age. But this is my second innings, and in our firm, just about 10 days back, we completed 13 years. So that is transforming into a HR tech firm now. So a lot of technology happening in our firm, from a full-grown consulting HR firm. And so a lot of excitement and a lot of action.
So how many hours do you clock in every week nowadays?
Okay, that's a wonderful question. Honestly speaking, never really looked at how many hours I'm really clocking. It's about what you're doing. If there's plenty of passion in it, I don't believe really in the concept of hours, if you really ask me. Yes, there are moments when you kind of switch off, but then you got to switch on as well. Stay tuned, I would say, a better term. So that's the way I've always seen ours.
Interestingly, the co-founder of Infosys, Mr. Murthy, he dared to quantify and got a number, a magic number of 70 hours a week, and then the world was after him.
Correct.
Bhavesh Agarwal from
even
he supported, and then a lot of rage around that. Should we go for 70 hours a week or not? What's your take on it?
No, so when that quote came in, in about 48 hours I would have posted a LinkedIn thing, and I'm fairly active on LinkedIn. So I had this very interesting thing that I wrote, and I had picked up again this during my life somewhere that if you do something that you enjoy, then there is never a dull moment, or you don't really look at how much of time has gone by. I saw that comment as a pretty interesting comment coming from somebody who's definitely set up such a huge organization. So he definitely knows the meaning of hard work, if I may call it, right? As an entrepreneur now, being in my 14th year, I also realize the importance of time. That's very, very critical. As a HR person, if you really ask me, concept of 70 hours and all, okay, I would see it just as a little comment out there. Can you really put 70 hours into practice? Very difficult, very difficult. So while he might have uttered a number, what he would have implied is it's about hard work, right? And that people need to probably put in much more effort, as I might call it. So my take on the whole thing was that if you're into something that you really love, I don't think time really matters, And so, but like you correctly mentioned, if you have to take it to an organization, it's debatable, very, very difficult to apply. I don't think even the law will really allow for that, because the Factory Act, the Shop Establishment Act, the two broad acts that really have put forth the whole framework around the timings, work timings in our country. I doubt anybody will really go revisit them. We will stay with what is there. But yes, it's a very interesting comment in the times that we live in.
When you say that in like time that we live in, what are you hinting at in terms of the way the place where like India is right now?
I would say very much. I think his comment was very much hinting at the juncture at which this country is. We are like one of those rare, kind of I would say a little tiny island where there's so much of action happening, while right across the world there is so much of uncertainty, gloom, whatever you might call it. You can pick up any continent and there is something happening. We within Asia, I think like few other countries, we are definitely a shining star. He definitely was hinting at the nation very much, and to the citizens broadly. Yeah.
But then as an individual, I might think that why should I bother? It's the entrepreneur, the co-founder, the founder who makes a lot of money because we clock in those hours. What do we get in return? There's always an equation of the compensation that they get because of what they put in terms of hours. So from the employee's perspective, what should they go with? I mean, like 70 hours a week, is it too much to ask from them?
I think definitely it's too much to ask, I would say. I would definitely put a thing like you got to have a balance very much in how much you're working and how much you're having your own personal time to your family, to your kids in case you're married, to yourself in case you're single. I think that personal space is important. How do you balance it out is very important. You just can't give half of your full day of 24 hours to work. I think that's too much of an ask. If you really ask me, if you're saying 12 hours into 6 days, 72 hours is like too much of a killer, I would say. I think in all fairness, I definitely would say that, applying that into a very straight-jacketed thing on employees, not at all asked for. And you correctly mentioned, me being also an entrepreneur running my own firm, definitely I also see myself putting in a lot more hours than probably my team does. But am I really chasing them late in the night over a weekend? Not at all, right? That's my thing.
Your culture.
That's my way of working, right? But I don't want to impose that on people. So again, going back to Mr. Murthy, I think while he might have said about 70 hours, one shouldn't take it like as is at 70 hours. One can work around it, take it to as much as you can, but I think that fine line between an employer and employee, like you're pointing out, that needs to be taken into mind and taken into context, and then only apply this very clearly. Yeah.
The way I see it, that any person who wants to go up the ladder in his craft, in his work, he has to clock in those hours. Option number one, it's PLP, like punch, lunch and punch, where you just show up that I have this 8-hour shift and I'm being paid this much by the end of the month. Fair enough. But then there is someone else at time of appraisal, at time of the next opportunity, someone who knows how to work hard, apart from the visibility as well. The two aspects very important. Only then you get to the next step. Else you get stuck in that same loop and you remain where you are. So if someone is able to figure out what he loves to do, then be it 12 hours or 15 hours barely matters. Talking about the country, people attribute it to that will be like more productive, will contribute to the global economy, and then the person says that why should I even bother? It is some people at the top who make the best out of it. Whereas, why should I think about the country? Let me leave this country and go and find a job somewhere else, where the working hours are much better, 9 to 5, 9 to 5, weekends are mine. What's your take on that?
Well, I differed big time on that with Mr. Murthy when he said a country is one of the least productive nations. And that's a comment he made when he made 70 hours thing. And definitely there was some linkage around it. But I would say this country has definitely, if you really look back to our 75 years, it's been a phenomenal run, if you really ask me. If you really compare to so many other countries where they are, we are far ahead, far ahead. That's why our not only leadership within different strata or within different work pieces of work, if you look at our own corporate kind of a thing or a management thing, look at how Indian managers have done globally, right? So very clearly, when he said we are a least productive, I think right from a studying at a school, college, B school, work, I think people have worked very hard in this country. And that's why where we are, and that's why we are so globally recognized and rewarded and, whatever appreciated you might call it. So I differed with him because I would say all our scientists, politicians, social activists, freedom strugglers, anybody you name it, they have been supremely productive, I would say. And that's why we've got so much of solid documentation of so many things, so much of clarity on everything. Even if I have to pick up a constitution, things are so brilliantly laid out. Look at our labor laws and all stuff. If I talk about a HR standpoint, things are so clearly laid out. So I think there has been so much of method that has gone into the whole thing. And that's why it's not become a mad country. I mean, when I'm using the word method, I'm talking about madness, naturally. But because there has been so much method, so much of productivity, that's why where we are. I mean, and we are just now on the cusp of taking the entire thing into a different level, So that's where I differed very strongly that it's not about that we are we are very hardworking population, very hardworking. Whether it's the farmer in the farm, the worker on a factory shop floor, it's like a delivery guy today, IT person. I mean, people slog in this country. So for him to have made a statement, we are very less productive, I definitely differ on that big time. We are pretty much productive people, very productive and sincere people. Yes, there are a set of people who carry this whole attitude of a chalta hai and take it easy, like you said, punch, lunch, punch. Yes, that's a population, but then that's everywhere, which is okay. I mean, as long as there is a very committed lot out there who are giving their 120%, 150%, we are good. We're pretty good.
So is it feasible to have the 70-hour week in this country called India?
I don't think so. It is possible. I think the law also is very clear, and I don't think there has been any discussion after this comment that suddenly the Labour Ministry or whoever is responsible to start looking into the books and seeing that, okay, how do we tweak the number of hours? I don't think that's going to really happen. But it's like I said, it's a good point of discussion. And to really highlight that such an opportunity in the country right now requires a lot of hours to be put in. And like I said, yes, while a number has been thrown up, one doesn't really need to get married to it. Mm-hmm. Difficult, like I said, to apply. And I don't see it happening at all in the country, very clearly.
Got it. When influential entrepreneurs like Mr. Agarwal, Mr. Murthy, they talk about 70 hours, then this will lead to like productivity. Can there be some alternatives to increase productivity, as in hiring more number of individuals than just clocking 70 hours a week, or some other ways?
I don't know whether just throwing in headcount will really help. Again, the way things are, when he uses the word productive, for example, that has a direct impact on the cost, right? And amongst the cost, one of the critical factors is manpower, right?
What does that mean? Could you please
So when we are saying productivity, we are talking about not only a time, cost and all people, but the core thing around productivity is cost, right? And in the cost, one of the critical contributor is manpower, right? So if I keep adding manpower, somewhere my productivity is also getting hit, right? So it's not about tackling this hours by adding manpower. That's not an option that I'm even talking about. It's about ensuring whether you incentivize people for what they're doing right now, whether you start rewarding them in a far better manner, so that people stretch a bit. So when we say 70 hours, and I was saying about that only, that say it is 12 hours a day, very difficult for putting that 12 hours into action, right? And is that 12 hours completely work? Very difficult, because there are breaks in it, there are commute like you mentioned, there are various things that are there. In any case, so if you really cut down all of that, we will come down actually to 9, 10 hours, right? So in a 6 6-day working week thing, we will be around 60 hours if you really ask me. If really a thing comes to a push, I wouldn't say 70 hours pure work, very difficult. That's not going to happen. And I don't think so. When if Mr. Murthy needs to be also asked to be clarifying, is this 70 hours pure work or it includes everything, all the other things that are part of it? So my take on the feasibility part would be organizations need to figure out how if better output needs to come in. Are there ways of really rewarding, recognizing people, individuals for doing who are really stretching and really doing some solid contribution to their companies? I think those are the things to really look at rather than just, like you mentioned, adding manpower. I don't think adding manpower is just the solution. There are multiple things that you will need to look at.
For example, in our company, we use a lot of automation.
Yes.
That's one.
Yeah.
Which doesn't replace the person, it makes the work easier for the person.
Easier.
That's one.
Absolutely.
Second, the processes that were too complex, they have been simplified so that the team members can navigate through smoothly,
Sure.
than get stuck and appear to be busy the whole day.
True.
And third, that whenever someone has joined in, we have been very open in sharing that, okay, this is how the work has to be done. The training has to be very clear so that they don't spend hours figuring out all by themselves.
Yes.
And hand holding for the initial few days, which is missing in many organizations.
Correct.
When you think of having 70 plus hours, what effect it will have on female employees who have to manage so many chores, looking at the societal construct that we live in?
I wouldn't put a gender to this, honestly. I believe, look, and I have been talking about this quite a lot, and there's plenty of action that's going to happen in this country around the women population. They're suddenly being seen as probably far more, if I may use the word productive, because anyways they were multitasking. Now, if you look at a woman's life who's working, right? She wakes up at a certain time, if she has a kid going to a school, imagine the day starts far early, right? That means the work, if Mr. Murthy's words I have to pick up, the work has started at 7, 6 a.m., what have you, right? Till she's done with the dishes at night, in case she doesn't have a house help, for example. And the dishes are done, it's about 10 o'clock, right? You clock in from a 6 to 10.
How about the case when both of them work for long hours?
Sure.
How will they balance their home and impacting their lives as well?
Yeah, so that's a very interesting question, and we are seeing a lot of impact on the children of how the time that should be given to a child is getting affected big time in a dual career kind of a situation. So again, it's up to the two individuals to really realize the importance of a family in case you have decided to go the family way. Look, the other shift that we are seeing is, of course, people not wanting to get married is one phenomenon which is developing very strongly, not only in India, globally. Number two, even if you're getting married, we don't want to have a child, right? But say you've moved to the third stage, you've decided to get married, decided to have a family, then for heaven's sake, please have that little window of giving ample time to your child. Don't damage that child. I think if today there is a growing situation of a mental situation, wellness, depression, things like which we would not have heard about, say 25, 30 years back. But I think it's about these individuals getting so caught up in their careers and what have you that, these children are getting lost somewhere. And so once they come to the workplace, they don't know how to figure, to correlate, to relate with people because there are nuclear families happening, So I think there are impacts and people need to realize how much of time they need to take out for their children. That's very, very important because look, that's future. So if our future is going to be, built around this kind of a way of bringing up a family, that can have a very terrible impact in future.
Given the Gen Z workforces vocalizing the need for a work-life balance as compared to the boomers and the previous generations, how sustainable it is to have extended hours of working for them?
Well, if you really ask me, today's workplace, especially if you really look at, say, for example, a tech company, for example, right? The amount of, or even a FMCG, I used to be in Gillette, and then I had moved to Procter and Gamble acquired Gillette, and Procter and Gamble was way bigger than Gillette. But the kind of things or facilities that were being made available to individuals at work was unparalleled, right? And the tech companies have taken it to a different level, right? So there are multiple things that companies are doing from a benefit standpoint, perk standpoint, the whole focus on wellness now because of the pandemic. I think these little initiatives taken by companies are anyway adding lot of balance into people's lives while they are at work, right? I would say that there's enough and plenty that's happening. Now, if people are looking that, yes, we want to still balance our work and life, please understand there's enough that's happening at the workplace, A. B, yes, it is important that you have your personal time. And I think employers are becoming very conscious about it. They are leading by example, that they themselves switch off the lights and they leave, and they don't want anybody to be hanging around in the office. So there are a lot of people who set such examples and who are very, very mindful that this generation does require a break. They're very smart lot, and yes, it's a difficult bunch of people to manage, like I said. They will ask for that freedom. They want that balance of work and life. We as employers, we need to be really figuring out and stay as dynamic, as agile, think like them. I think it's important. For me at my age, I mean, the more I engage with the younger population, I myself stay young. I mean, that's so important. If I don't have the pulse of them, how do I really manage? I can't manage the old way. It's not what it is used to be.
So this is from the employer's perspective, that I have to be more agile, I have to bring in more freedom. The last one, 4 hours of work week, which is giving a balanced life, versus a 6 hours.
4 day week.
I wish I would have me a 4 hours, you know.
Like, 4 hours a week, man, that will be a killer. That will be a killer.
So 4, I guess, you know, like God is saying like something through me.
So 4 hours, then so you're just in the on the beach and in the mountains.
Wow. So let's take an example, 4 days a week,
yeah.
versus like 6 days a week.
Yeah.
We talk about like 6 days a week and the need for productivity, the need for making this country great and all that stuff. But then how about the impact it has on our health around the working culture? Becomes toxic? What's your take?
Look, toxic, I'll pick up the last word. That's a very interesting word. That can happen even in a 4-day week work, right? There's nothing toxicity about the 6 day. I would pick up the other word that you talked about, stress. Yeah. So 6-day work, yes, the stress can be multifold compared to a 4-day. Naturally, because you're getting far more time to relax, for example, right? You could travel, you could probably spend time shopping, movie, friends, whatever it is. So naturally, if you're spending time socializing, naturally that has a very good impact on you as a person. Work has its own impact, right? So naturally a 4-day week will give a lovely balance to your life, right? That okay, out of 7 days, 4 days given to work, 3 days is all mine. To a 6-day and a 1-day, right? So naturally that 1 day is going to be cluttered with so many things, and because you're going to squeeze so much, there's hardly anything left, and suddenly Monday starts knocking at you, right? And that's why today in the country, if we are already at a 5-day work, barring, yes, there are large companies and shops and all which still work on a 6-day work, but many companies who have moved to 5-day work clearly see the benefit of how much of time that has gone to the employees, to their families. It has helped naturally.
Thank you for doing this.
Thank you
Love
so
the
much.
insights.
Thank
and I
you
believe
so
that
much.
all those who listen to us will be more productive and more happy in what they do. More blessings.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Great stuff. Thanks for watching this episode of Workwise with Naukri. Hope you liked this episode. If you did, subscribe to the show and we'll see you in the next episode.